The only thing you truly control is your perception. Your reaction to anything, your interpretation, your story, is entirely up to you. Nothing external can hurt you unless it taps into something unresolved within. At first, that might sound like a cliché, something you'd see on an inspirational poster, but it's a timeless truth, supported by both ancient philosophy and modern psychology. Marcus Aurelius said, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." In other words, it's not the event that disturbs us, it's how we perceive it. We can't control other people or circumstances, but we can control the meaning we assign to them. Consider this. Someone call you a nasty name. On its own, it's just a sound. Words spoken into the air. But once those words reach your ears, your mind starts interpreting. If a stranger yelled, "You're a purple-spotted giraffe," you'd likely laugh or brush it off. It's absurd. You know it's false, so it has no power. But if someone says, "You're not good enough," or "You're stupid," that might hit differently. Why? Because part of you fears it might be true. The insult only stings if it speaks something inside you. The words find a crack in your old wound. Without that inner wound, the same insult would bounce off. There's a powerful saying, "None can destroy iron, but its own rust can." Likewise, none can destroy a person, but his own mindset can. Think about that. Iron is strong against outside pressure, yet it weakens when rust eats away at it from within. Life can throw rejection, insults, and failure our way, but the real damage only happens when we let our own doubts or unresolved wounds corrode us from the inside. An insult can't break you unless you believe it. A failure can't define you unless you internalize it. Your mindset is the rust. If it's unchecked, it weakens you, but if you keep it clear, external hits simply bounce off. Carl Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." In other words, strong emotional reactions act like mirrors. When something or someone deeply triggers you, it's usually reflecting a part of you, a hidden fear, an insecurity, or an old wound. Maybe you get angry when someone talks over you. Could it be because you've spent years feeling unseen or dismissed? Maybe a small criticism at work crushes you. Why? Because deep down you question your own worth, and that comment hit a nerve you haven't fully healed. These triggers point to what Jung called the shadow, the hidden parts of ourselves we often try to avoid. I remember a time when a friend joked, "You always screw things up." They laughed, but my chest tightened, my face flushed. I felt hurt and defensive. Why did it sting so much? Later, I realized it wasn't just the joke. It was what it poked inside me. Growing up, I lived under pressure to be perfect. I had internalized a deep fear of failure. My friend's words hurt because, at that moment, I feared they might be true. That moment led me inward. I asked myself, do I really always screw things up? No, I don't. I began noticing my successes, forgiving my mistakes, and speaking to myself more kindly. Over time, that wound began to heal slowly. Today, if someone says something similar, it doesn't rattle me. I either take the feedback, if it's valid, or let it pass, if it's not. But I don't crumble, because the wound those words once hit no longer controls me. That's what shadow work is, shining light on the painful, hidden places within so they stop running the show. It's not easy, but it's freeing. The more you heal your inner wounds, the fewer buttons there are for the outside world to push. You react less, not because you've grown numb, but because there's simply less pain left inside to stir up. Even if you haven't done deep psychological work, you can begin applying this truth right now by changing how you respond. You may not be able to control that first flash of emotion. You're human, but you can control what happens next. This is where Viktor Frankl's wisdom comes in. A Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, he said, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." What does that mean? It means that no matter what life throws at you, there's a brief moment, a split second, where you get to decide how to interpret it and how to act. Someone sends you a rude message. That's the stimulus. Your heart jumps, anger flares. That's the natural emotional surge. But then comes the space, your chance to pause, to ask, is this about me or about them? To decide, will I lash out, let it ruin my day, or will I let it go? That space is where your power lives. It's where your growth begins. You can choose to treat an insult as just noise. You can view a setback as a challenge instead of a failure. This ability to choose your response is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Over time, you'll find that outside events lose their power to yank you around emotionally without your permission. And science backs this up. When something upsets you, your body reacts before your mind can fully process. Your brain's alarm system, called the amygdala, fires off as if you're in danger. That's why your heart races, your fists clench, or your voice shakes when someone provokes you. It's a primitive survival mechanism. Psychologists call this an amygdala hijack, when your emotional brain seizes the controls, shutting down your ability to think clearly. Stress hormones flood your system, and logic goes offline. That's why we say or do things in the heat of the moment that we later regret. We were quite literally hijacked by our biology. But here's the encouraging part. We can train this response. By practicing the pause, that Frankl space, you activate your frontal lobe, the rational part of your brain, and take back control. Something as small as a slow, intentional breath can change everything. It tells your body, this isn't danger, this is discomfort, I'm safe. With practice, your nervous system adapts. You start recognizing, this comment isn't life-threatening. This rejection isn't the end of me. The more you affirm this truth, the less reactive you become. Your brain literally rewires itself. What once felt like a threat begins to feel manageable, even irrelevant. This is emotional resilience. It's not about being cold or indifferent. It's about staying grounded enough to respond wisely rather than react impulsively. And every time you make that choice, you're building a life with more clarity, more freedom, and more peace. Studies have shown that emotional pain, like rejection or harsh words, activates the same areas of the brain as physical pain. So when we say words hurt, that's not just a metaphor. The brain processes emotional wounds much like physical ones. No wonder they cut so deeply. But here's the key difference. While physical pain often stems from things outside our control, emotional pain has a strong mental component. It's like psychological judo. You can't stop someone from throwing a punch or an insult, but you can step aside internally so it doesn't hit where it hurts. Once you master your perception, you start padding your internal world. Life will still throw its slings and arrows, but they bounce off more easily. You still feel the initial impact, but you get to decide what it means. Is it a catastrophe or just discomfort? You choose. Let's make that real. Say you're stuck in traffic, running late for something important. Most people get tense, curse their luck, and spiral into frustration. The traffic itself, totally out of your control. But your experience of it, that's up to you. You can stew in anger or accept, I'll get there when I get there. And maybe listen to something calming. The situation doesn't change, but your peace of mind does, based entirely on how you choose to interpret it. Or imagine texting a friend and hearing nothing back for hours. You might think, they're ignoring me, they don't care, and feel rejected. But another interpretation could be, they're probably busy or dealing with something. I'll give it time. Same external reality, no response. But your story determines whether you feel hurt or stay at ease. Our perceptions shape our emotional reality. They're that powerful. Now, mastering this truth doesn't mean you'll never feel anger, sadness, or disappointment again. Of course you will. You're human, and it's okay to feel those things. Being emotionally strong doesn't mean becoming numb. It means being steady. It's knowing how to stay centered, even when emotions rise. You feel the anger, you name the disappointment, but you don't spiral or lash out. You pause, you reflect, and you respond with intention. You might say, that was disrespectful and it hurt, or I'm upset because I had high hopes. Then, instead of drowning in the emotion, you let it pass, or turn it into something useful. That's what it means to hold your center, to have emotional antibodies. The sting is still there, but you recover faster, and it no longer leaves a scar. Something else changes too. You begin to see people differently. When someone is rude or cruel, you don't automatically take it personally. You recognize it's often more about them than it is about you. You know who you are, and their words only hurt if they echo a doubt you still carry. If that doubt is gone, their comment has nowhere to land. You might even feel compassion. Hurt people, and once you're no longer stuck defending your ego, you can respond with calm, even kindness. You might think, they must be having a hard time to act out like that, instead of internalizing their behavior. This mindset shields your peace and softens conflict. So, how do you build this in daily life? It starts with awareness. The next time you feel triggered by anger, rejection, anxiety, pause. Take a breath. Remind yourself, this feeling is coming from how I'm interpreting this. Ask, what story am I telling myself? What old wound is this touching? That one moment of reflection is enough to stop the chain reaction. From there, choose your response intentionally. Maybe it's as simple as saying, I'm not taking this personally, or what can I learn here? The more you practice this, the more your emotional resilience grows. It's not that life gets easier, you get stronger. You train your mind to see differently, and in doing so, you transform how deeply anything can shake you. At the end of the day, remember this: no one and nothing can make you feel inferior, angry, or hurt without your consent. That consent is given by your own mind in how you perceive the event, and you can revoke that consent whenever you choose, when you realize that you're the one who decides what enters your mind and heart. It's like having an invisible shield that keeps negativity from getting in. You become untouchable in the truest sense by facing them with grounded strength and deep inner wisdom. Disappointments don't devastate you. They just remind you to realign and keep moving forward. You don't live at the mercy of others' opinions or uncontrollable events. You live guided by your own principles and peace. That's the outcome of mastering this one truth about perception. You are in control of the meaning you give to everything. That is your power, one that can never be taken from you. So, starting now, practice owning that power, and stop adding unnecessary suffering. As the Stoics would say, you can't control the wind, but you can adjust your sails. And once you've mastered adjusting your inner sails, nothing can affect you anymore. I hope you enjoyed watching our video. As always, wishing you a beautiful day.